as a symbol of hope for all women of Islam and the women of the world, Saudi Arabia cannot say that Islam oppresses women. So what do? They try to eradicate them from the history of our minds, their love in our hearts, their presence geographically in the world. And in doing so, they can fabricate whatever story they want about this religion of Islam. By destroying the 4 shrines of 4 notable imams, all 4 of them are accredited with being the pioneers of all the sciences that we know today. Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq. And these are not my words, my brothers and sisters. These are the words of French Renaissance academics, atheists who do not even believe in a God. They compiled a book on the contributions of Imam Ja'far towards science, and they titled the book, The Great Muslim Scholar and Philosopher Ja'far al-Sadiq. We cannot hope for people to become educated if we are destroying the shrine of the pioneer of education. And for that very reason, you find that even those who reside and live in Saudi Arabia without oppression have to travel all the way to the West in order to find any form of education that can add any quality to their lives and to the lives of humanity. Because Saudi Arabia, despite their millions, despite the billions, despite the oil and all the natural resources which they do not have a single university that can produce a single intellectual mind. What do instead? They bombard the poorest Arab nation, Yemen. What do? They attack Syria, the last remaining secular Arab nation, where Christian and Jew and Muslim and atheist can live without fear and without duress. Saudi Arabia is not against Bashar al-Assad because they are just as bad as Bashar. I do not care whether a child is killed by Bashar or by Saudi or by ISIS or by Nusra. What bothers me is that a child is being killed for no reason except to feed the ego of other men. And therefore, when we stand here today protesting for Baqee, we are not simply asking for the rebuilding of bricks and mortars, but we are asking for the reinstatement of morals, principles, ideas, ideals, and an ideology which will raise our intellectual minds, which will make us more morally attuned to the needs of mankind. And therefore, we must not be content with simply protesting for the rights of Baqee, but we must become the bricks and mortar which will rebuild Baqee through our intellectual conversations, through our contributions in academic circles, by reaching out to senators and governments and educating them. And I will conclude on this one point. Only recently, less than 3 months ago in St. Louis, Missouri, there was a motion to ban the hijab following, the European countries, and to put a ban on all Muslim congregation. 3 young Muslim men decided that they will go to the house of the decision maker, not knowing whether they will be accepted in or not. And when they knocked on his door, he welcomed them in. They spoke to him for 30 minutes, telling him what is true Islam and the difference between true Islam and Saudi ideology. And mind you, these were Sunni Muslims, not Shia Nashed. After 30 minutes, the next day, publicly he tears up all the documents that would have banned the hijab, and he said, there is no difference between us and the version of Islam that is here in America, but there is a world of difference between us and Saudi Arabia.